Ethan Hale had learned that silence on an alien world was never empty. It always meant something was watching, listening, or waiting. The room assigned to him was simple by human standards. Smooth gray walls curved slightly inward, built for a species taller than him. The light panels glowed softly, adjusting to his breathing and heart rate. Outside, the distant city of Keth Varun stretched under a purple sky, its towers shaped like blades frozen in stone. Ethan sat on the edge of the sleeping platform, cleaning his sidearm out of habit more than need. The war was over, at least officially. Humanity had helped the Talarin Compact push back the devouring swarm, a threat that had nearly erased 3-star systems. Humans were new to the galactic stage, but they had arrived loudly, through endurance, stubborn courage, and a refusal to retreat even when logic said they should. Now Ethan was here as a liaison soldier, a guest, an observer. That was what the official orders said. He locked the sidearm and placed it on the table. The silence deepened. Then the door opened. Ethan looked up instantly, muscles tightening. The door had no sound, no warning chime. One moment the wall was solid, the next it parted like water. A tall figure stepped inside. She was alien, unmistakably so. Taller than Ethan by half a head, her skin a pale blue-gray with faint lines that glimmered like frost under the lights. Her eyes were dark, reflective, without visible pupils. She wore ceremonial armor, layered plates of living alloy shaped to her form, marked with symbols Ethan did not recognize. She did not speak. She closed the door behind her and stood still, facing him. Ethan rose slowly to his feet. His training screamed at him to demand identification, to signal command, to prepare for anything. But something about her presence made him pause. She carried no visible weapon. Her posture was calm, controlled, almost formal. "Can I help you?" he asked. She did not respond. Instead, she raised her hands and touched the clasps at her shoulders. Ethan frowned. "Hey, wait." The armor plates separated smoothly, folding inward and dissolving into soft light before vanishing completely. One layer at a time, she removed them, placing nothing on the floor, leaving no clutter behind. When she was finished, she stood in a simple undergarment of her species, designed more for function than display. She had undressed in complete silence. Ethan's heart pounded, not with desire but with confusion and alarm. "This is not appropriate," he said carefully. "If this is some kind of misunderstanding," she stepped closer, not invading his space, not threatening. Just closer enough that he could feel a faint warmth radiating from her body. She studied his face as if committing it to memory. Her gaze was steady, unwavering. It felt like being measured, like being claimed. Ethan swallowed. "Listen. I don't know what this means where you're from, but," she finally spoke. "You are Ethan Hale," she said, her voice low and precise, shaped by a translator implant that carried faint harmonics beneath the words. "Yes," he replied. "I am." She inclined her head slightly. "I am Vaelrin of the Seventh Crest." The name hit him harder than any weapon could have. Vaelrin. The name was known even among human command briefings. A high-ranking Talarin commander, a living symbol of authority and honor, someone who did not move without reason. Ethan straightened. "Commander Vaelrin, this visit was not announced." "It was not meant to be," she said. Her eyes never left his. "In my culture," she continued, "one does not announce a vow." Ethan's breath caught. "A vow," she nodded once. "I have observed you for 17 cycles, on the battlefield, in council halls, among my people." She raised one long finger and touched the center of her chest. "You stand without bending. You speak without fear. You protect those who cannot repay you." Ethan shook his head slightly. "That's just being human." Her gaze sharpened. "That is why." She took another step closer. Now there was no denying the intensity of her presence. Not romantic, not threatening, something deeper. He felt like a line had been crossed, though he did not know how. "I removed my armor," Vaelrin said, "because armor is identity, rank, separation. Without it I am bound only by honor." Ethan forced himself to speak calmly. Bound to what? To you. The room seemed smaller. This can't be right, Ethan said. If this is some kind of political gesture, it needs to go through official channels. There are no channels for this, she replied. Only witnesses. Ethan glanced around the empty room. There's no one else here. I am aware, she said. He rubbed a hand over his face. Commander, with all respect, humans don't do things this way. That is also why, she said again. Her gaze softened just slightly. You believe ownership is claimed through force, through dominance. Ethan said nothing. In my people, she continued, it is claimed through responsibility. She lifted her chin. I have claimed responsibility for you. That word again, claimed. Ethan met her eyes. I don't belong to anyone. For the first time, Valerin hesitated. Then your people were correct, she said slowly. Humans do not submit. Relief flickered in his chest. Exactly. But you do choose, she finished. The door chimed suddenly. Both of them turned. A soft voice echoed through the room. Commander Valerin. This is High Liaison Torvek. Your presence is requested immediately. Valerin's jaw tightened. She did not move. Commander, the voice pressed. The Council is aware you left your armor vault. Ethan felt a chill. They know. Yes, Valerin said quietly. They always know. She looked back at Ethan. This visit is unfinished. I think it shouldn't have started, he replied honestly. Something like respect passed through her eyes. That is acceptable, she said. For now. She stepped back and with a controlled gesture, her armor reformed around her body, light folding into solid shape once more. In seconds, she was once again the imposing commander of the Talarin. Before turning to leave, she spoke one last time. You believe I looked at you as if you were mine, she said. Ethan did not deny it. I did, she continued, but not as a possession. She placed a hand over her crest symbol. As a bond I am willing to defend even against my own people. Then she was gone. The door sealed shut. Ethan stood alone in the quiet room, heart racing, mind struggling to catch up. He had faced alien war beasts, orbital bombardments, and impossible odds, but nothing had unsettled him like this. Outside, alarms began to echo faintly across the city. Somewhere in the vast alien complex, a council was already reacting. And for the first time since humanity had entered the galaxy, the question was not what humans could offer, but what they could not be controlled to give. Ethan sat down slowly, staring at the spot where Valerin had stood. Whatever had just begun, he knew one thing for certain. It was not a misunderstanding, and it was not over. The city of Keth Varun did not sleep after Valerin left Ethan's room. Alarms did not scream, and soldiers did not run through the streets, but the air itself felt tense. Lights along the towers shifted from soft violet to alert amber. Energy flows changed. Ethan noticed it from his window long before any official message reached him. Within an hour, his room door chimed again. This time, it was not silent. Ethan opened it to find two Talarin guards standing rigidly outside. Their armor was darker than Valerin's, heavier, designed for enforcement, not ceremony. Between them stood a smaller figure, robed in layered cloth instead of armor. Ethan Hale, the robed figure said, you are requested by the Council of Crests. Requested? Ethan asked. Or ordered? The figure's mouth tightened slightly. Please come with us. Ethan grabbed his jacket and followed. He did not resist. Humans never won respect by hiding, and this was not a moment for fear. They walked through halls carved from crystal and stone older than human history. Symbols glowed faintly along the walls, reacting to the presence of the guards. Ethan felt small, but not weak. He had felt this before, standing before generals and politicians on Earth who believed power came from position alone. The council chamber was vast and circular. 12 elevated platforms formed a ring around a central floor. Each platform held a representative of a different Talarin crest. Some were armored, others robed. All watched Ethan as he stepped into the center. Valerin stood among them. She did not look at him. High Liaison Torvik spoke first. His voice echoed slightly, shaped by the chamber's design. Ethan Hale of Earth, Torvik said, you stand before the council because of an unapproved bonding ritual. Ethan lifted his chin. I did not agree to any ritual. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Valerin turned her head slightly, acknowledging the statement without defense. That, Torvik said, is part of the problem. Another council member spoke, taller than the rest, their crest marked with sharp angles. Humans are not bound species. They are auxiliaries, allies, not equals. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. Valerin finally spoke. That belief is outdated. Several crests reacted at once. You overstep, one snapped. You endanger the balance, said another. Valerin stepped forward. The balance was already broken. Humans repaired it with blood and endurance none of you were prepared to give. Torvik raised a hand. Enough. Valerin, you are accused of attempting to bind a human under Talarin law without consent. I attempted nothing, she replied calmly. I declared intent, the choice was his. All eyes turned to Ethan. Torvik faced him. Human, did Commander Valerin force you? No, Ethan said clearly. Did she threaten you? No. Did she deceive you? Ethan paused. She didn't explain everything, but no deception. Torvik nodded slowly. Then you are free to leave this chamber. Ethan blinked. That's it. For you, Torvik said, not for her. Valerin did not move. Ethan felt something twist in his chest. What happens to her? Torvik's eyes hardened. She will be judged. For what? Ethan demanded. For respecting me. For challenging the order that keeps us alive, Torvik replied. Ethan took a breath. Then judge me too. The chamber fell silent. Valerin turned sharply. Ethan. No, he said, louder now. If this is about what happened in my room, then I'm part of it. Humans don't let others take punishment for something we shared. Torvik studied him carefully. You would stand against a council that is not your own. I've done worse, Ethan said. Something unreadable passed through Valerin's eyes. Torvik leaned back. Very well, then you will hear the truth. The lights dimmed, and a projection filled the center of the chamber. Images of star systems appeared, many marked in red. The devouring swarm was not defeated, Torvik said. It was delayed. Ethan frowned. Our reports said, your reports were incomplete, Torvik interrupted. Fragments of the swarm adapt, they learn, they return. The image zoomed in on a distant sector, a familiar one. Ethan's breath caught. That's human space. Yes, Torvik said, and they are coming. A heavy silence settled. Valerin spoke softly. This is why I chose him. Torvik looked at her. You chose him because he is human. No, she said. Because when humans face extinction, they do not negotiate. They endure. Ethan stared at the projection. Memories surfaced. Last stands, impossible retreats, soldiers holding lines long after hope was gone. Torvik turned back to Ethan. The council fears that binding a human will force us into a war we are not ready to fight. Ethan laughed once, bitterly. You're already in it. The projection shifted again. A human colony world appeared, small and vulnerable. If you punish her, Ethan said, you weaken yourselves. If you silence her, you lose someone who understands what's coming. Torvik's fingers tapped the arm of his platform. You speak boldly for someone with no authority. Ethan met his gaze. Humans didn't earn a place in this galaxy by asking permission. Valerin stepped forward. Council, hear this truth. You fear humans because you cannot control them. That fear will cost you everything. Another crest spoke, voice sharp. Or it will save us from being dragged into human wars. Ethan turned to them. You think this is our war? He pointed at the projection. That thing eats stars, planets, species. It doesn't care about borders or crests. Silence followed. Torvik exhaled slowly. Valerin, your punishment will be delayed. Valerin bowed her head slightly. But your bond is not recognized, Torvik continued. And Ethan Hale will be returned to human command. Ethan nodded. That's fine. Valerin looked at him sharply. It is not fine. He met her gaze. You said humans choose. This is me choosing. Torvik raised a hand again. This council is adjourned. The guards escorted Ethan out, but their grip was lighter now. Hours later, Ethan stood on a landing platform as a human transport prepared for departure. The purple sky was darkening, stars beginning to shine. Valerin approached, armor gleaming softly. "You did not have to do that," she said. "Yes, I did," Ethan replied. She studied him. "You understand that my people may never accept this." "I don't need acceptance," he said. "Just honesty," she nodded slowly. "Then hear mine. The swarm will reach human space within 2 cycles. The council will hesitate, they always do." Ethan looked out at the stars. "Then we won't." Valerin stepped closer. "If I defy them, I lose everything." Ethan turned to her. "Humans lose everything all the time. We keep going anyway." A faint smile touched her lips. "That is why your kind frightens us." The transport doors opened. Ethan extended his hand. "You don't belong to a council that's afraid to survive." She looked at his hand for a long moment, then she placed her own over it. "I will come," she said, "not as a commander, not as a bond, but as a choice." As the transport lifted into the sky, neither of them looked back. The galaxy was changing. And this time, humans would not face it alone. The human fleet gathered near the edge of known space, far from any world that could be called safe. Ships of many sizes drifted in controlled formation, their hulls scarred by past battles. Some were old, refitted civilian vessels. Others were purpose-built warships, still smelling of fresh alloy and human urgency. Ethan Hale stood on the command deck of the carrier Resolute Dawn, watching the tactical display. Red markers flickered at the edge of sensor range. The devouring swarm was close now. Not a rumor, not a projection, it was real. Valerin stood beside him. She wore no crest armor, only a simple tactical suit adapted for human environments. To many Talarin, this would have been unthinkable. To her, it was clarity. "The Council has issued a formal censure," she said calmly. "I am no longer a bond commander. My authority among my people is limited." Ethan did not look at her. "You regret it?" "No," she replied instantly. "I regret that it took humans for me to see how fear has shaped us." The fleet commander, Admiral Reyes, turned from the central console. "Swarm Vanguard will reach this position in 12 minutes." Ethan nodded. "All ships ready." "As ready as humans ever are," Reyes said grimly. The first contact came without drama. Space rippled, twisted, and then broke apart as the swarm emerged. Massive shapes unfolded from folded dimensions, their forms wrong to human eyes. Not ships, not creatures, something between. Something that consumed without thought or mercy. Human ships opened fire. There was no hesitation, no waiting for permission from allied councils. Railguns thundered. Missiles streaked forward in blinding arcs. Energy beams burned lines through the dark. The swarm answered. Several smaller human ships vanished in flashes of light and debris. No screams, no warnings, just gone. Ethan's hands clenched at his sides. Valerin watched silently. Her people valued careful engagement, perfect formation, overwhelming advantage. What she saw instead was chaos held together by will. "Why do you charge them?" she asked quietly. "You know you cannot overpower them." Ethan finally looked at her. "We're not trying to overpower them." He pointed at the display. "We're buying time, for colonies, for evacuation fleets, for worlds that did not even know they were about to die." The Resolute Dawn surged forward, shields flaring as enemy fire struck. The deck shook violently. Consoles sparked. "Damage to forward shields," someone shouted. "Reroute power," Reyes barked. Valerin felt something shift inside her. The swarm pressed harder. More of them emerged, adapting, changing shape as weapons struck. What worked once failed the next time. Human ships began to fall back, drawing the enemy deeper into the trap zone. Ethan activated the fleet-wide channel. "All units, Phase 2, you know the drill." There was no reply of fear, only acknowledgement tones. Then the human fleet did something no other species would consider sane. They detonated their own ships, Not the largest ones, not the carriers, but the smallest, fastest vessels, packed with unstable matter cores and experimental drives. They rammed into the heart of the swarm, collapsing space around them. The explosion was not bright. It was silent. Space folded inward, crushing swarm forms caught within. Even so, many survived. Valerin stared. You sacrifice yourselves deliberately. Ethan's voice was tight. They volunteered. The swarm recoiled, confused for the first time. That hesitation was enough. From hyperspace, new signatures appeared, Talaran ships, dozens. Then hundreds. Valerin's breath caught. They came. A familiar voice cut across the channel. This is High Liaison Torvek commanding Allied forces. Humanity, we stand with you. Ethan closed his eyes briefly. The battle turned brutal. Talaran precision combined with human aggression. Humans adapted tactics mid-fight. Talaran ships shielded human carriers. Human fighters dove into impossible gaps to protect Talaran cruisers. The swarm began to break, not retreat, break. As its core mass destabilized, space around it collapsed in violent waves. The combined fleet barely escaped the implosion. When silence returned, it felt unreal. Debris drifted. Damaged ships limped away. But the swarm was gone, for now. In the aftermath, survivors gathered on the Resolute Dawn. Humans and aliens stood together, exhausted, wounded, alive. Torvik arrived in person. He faced Ethan and Valerin without ceremony. You were correct, Torvik said to Ethan. Fear nearly doomed us. Then he turned to Valerin. And you were correct to choose responsibility over obedience. Valerin bowed her head. I did not choose ownership. I chose partnership. Torvik looked around at the mixed crew. Then the old laws no longer serve us. Weeks later, the galaxy felt different. Humans were no longer auxiliaries. They were allies, not because they were stronger, but because they would stand when others hesitated. Ethan stood once more in a quiet room, this time aboard a human ship. The walls were plain. The air smelled faintly of metal and recycled oxygen. Valerin stood across from him. This is where it began, she said softly. In silence. Ethan smiled faintly. Yeah, but it's not how it ends. She met his gaze, no claim in her eyes now, only respect. Humans do not belong to anyone, she said. No, Ethan agreed. But we stand with those who choose to stand with us. Outside the viewport, ships from many species traveled together for the first time, not under fear, not under command, but under shared resolve. The galaxy had tried to own humanity. Instead, humanity had changed it.